Asian Buddhist communities. It has not been quite assimilated into Western Buddhist communities. And that is, a Buddhist community has a certain kind of structure which provides an opportunity to practice dana. Within that structure, it becomes a community endeavor, and dana is naturally practiced. This community practices dana in a wonderful way. Every Burmese community I've been in has very strong dana practice that you can see in a community. Now, how does this work? This is something, it's not uniquely Burmese. It is in all of the Asian traditions I'm aware of, as long as there are monks or nuns available in the tradition. Okay, this is interesting, because when you find some feature in all of Buddhism that you do not find in other faiths, for instance, it means that that feature probably went all the way back to the Buddha. So how did this practice, what is this practice, and how did it go back to the Buddha? The Buddha, we don't usually think of him as we think of him as a philosopher more than a social engineer or a designer of communities. But he actually was a designer of communities. He designed the monastic sangha. Now the monastic sangha, the monks and nuns, followed rules that are very spelled out by the Buddha in a lot of detail and have a logic behind them. He wanted to create a certain kind of community. Now most Buddhists, probably even at the time of the Buddha, were lay people. He did not design rules outside of 5 or 8 or 10 precepts for lay people. He did not design a social structure for lay people. He designed it for monks. And this structure, what he specified for monks, requires that lay people behave in a certain way towards the monks. And this was the Buddha's design. Now, when we look at the Buddha as a designer of a social institution, the Sangha, people often do not recognize the Buddha's brilliance in that. The Buddha, when he designed the Sangha, he designed it with a number of purposes in mind, and one of them was to encourage the practice of dana. Another one was to ensure that the teachings would be preserved in the way he originally intended for future generations. Another one was to propagate the teachings. So he designed this thing called the Sangha, and that Sangha has its own structure, it has its bylaws, it has its own internal structure that certainly monks learn. It is the most remarkable human institution that's ever been devised. And I say this because it is something that was created 2,500 years ago and still exists and has always existed ever since, almost unchanged. If you were to come here and look at the modern Sangha, the way monks practice, he would recognize. He would recognize the robes, he would recognize the rules they're following. It's an institution that is virtually unchanged in 2,500 years. There's nothing else I know of in the world to compare with that. How did he design something that could last that long? When the Roman Empire rose, the Sangha was already there. When the Roman Empire fell, the Sangha was still there. When the Mongolian Empire, Genghis Khan, when his empire was created, the Sangha was there. When it fell, the Sangha was there. When the British Empire arose, the Sangha was already there. it's fallen, and the Sangha is still there. The Sangha outlives everything. There is nothing that old, no human institution that old. How did the Buddha do that? He had a very, very good sense of what he was creating. He wanted something to endure, and he knew exactly how to organize it. In America, we talk about, you know, our founding fathers who did something, you know, quite remarkable, that they, you know, created a democracy that's endured. It has its problems now, but you know, we think of these founding fathers. James Madison was generally the most important one for designing it, but you know, Thomas Jefferson and Tom Paine and of course George Washington, all these people were involved, and they created something that endured quite a long time. But the Buddhist Sangha has endured 10 times as long. So it's an incredible institution. So here's what he did with regard to dana. He did introduce two things into the monk's discipline. One thing he did was he made the monks entirely dependent on the laity. Entirely. Now there were already monks and they were receiving alms in India at the time of the Buddha, but he said that's not enough. You need to be entirely dependent on the laity, meaning you can have no livelihood, whatever, no way of earning wealth. You cannot engage in any exchange with lay people. You cannot trade anything that you have. Like, here's my robe, and give me that book. You cannot do that. The strict rule is you're not even supposed to touch money. You cannot give dhamma talks for a price. That would be livelihood. You are actually not even allowed to farm for yourself, raise your own food. You're not allowed to cook for yourself. This is remarkable. You are basically put yourself in the position of a house pet. Here I am, and feed me. If somebody gives you a lot of food, you know, you're not allowed to save it for the next day. Somebody can take it back and offer it again, but it has to be re-offered. So basically, unless dana is very much alive in the Buddhist community, monks are out of business. Okay, so part of it is this dependence on the laity. The second part is that monks are not allowed to do anything for themselves substantially. You know, they can brush their own teeth, they can get water for themselves, they can you know, clean up their room, they can do various things for themselves. But basically, you know, monks do four things. They meditate, they study, they do things that benefit other people, or they sleep. And that is the monk's life. What's missing is they cannot do things that benefit themselves. So again, they cannot earn wealth. They cannot. They're not allowed to, you know, engage in sensual pleasures, go to movies and things like that, you know, amass wealth. There is no restriction on what they can do for other people. So the result of this is that monks live entirely out of the exchange economy. The monks do not exchange anything for anything. That is, they do not buy and sell. When I give a Dhamma talk, I give it for you and not for me. The Buddha once gave a Dhamma talk. He was invited to give a Dhamma talk And the layperson, he showed up for the Dhamma talk, and the layperson made the mistake of saying, because you're giving a Dhamma talk, I'll give you a meal. And the Buddha said, basically, no deal. Because he did not want to be involved in an exchange. Now, when you give something to the monk, you're not getting anything back. That is, the monk can do things for you. You might enjoy the presence of the monk, but he's not doing anything for you because you gave something to the monk, a meal or something. When the monk does something for you, he's not getting anything back. So the monk is entirely out of the exchange economy, and that means that anything done, any dana performed by the monk is a very pure form of dana. It's not, there's no selfishness involved. There's not allowed to be any selfishness involved. Monks, in circumstances, people will think of ways to make it about them, but this is the principle. When you give something to a monk, you're outside of the exchange economy. There's no training involved. So he really created this institution that involves this bubble with the monks and nuns at the center, the laity that support the monks and nuns or spend time with the monks and nuns around it. And in that bubble, there's no exchange. There's only dana. That is, this is an economy of gifts entirely. The only way goods flow is through goods and services. Dhamma talk is also a service. The only way goods and services flow is through dana. And every time you participate in that and perform an act of dana, this is a very pure form of dana that is very high merit, because there's no way to make it about you. There's no way you can seek personal advantage. Of course, this is the pure model. We can find ways to seek personal advantage. We can try to, as a layperson, you might want to gain a reputation as somebody who's generous to monks, so that you make your neighbor look bad. This can be a selfish idea, and it can fit into this. We humans are very good at finding ways of being selfish. We'll find some kind of loophole or something. But this is the model, and it works. It works very well. So what you have is actually a small community that exists around the monks, that is based entirely on dana. The economy is completely based on dana. If I were to charge people for giving a Dhamma talk, for instance, I would miss an opportunity to gain merit. Okay? Because in the exchange economy, there's very little merit to be gained. When you remove the exchange, it's no longer about you. It's about kindness. It's about wanting to support the sasana. It's about that joy you feel, that very pure mind you feel when you give, and that is the experience that people have. This is exactly what I think the Buddha intended. He set this in motion, and this economy of gifts is something that has always followed the Sangha around, followed the monastic community around. It serves the monks because they are in a position, when you cannot do things for yourself, that is a good basis for practicing selflessness. And when you still have opportunities for doing things for others with no